Study Session 4 Approaches to the Study of Politics. Introduction. We discussed the levels at which politics takes place in the last study session. The main aim of this study session is to help you identify and discuss various approaches to the study of politics. 4 main approaches that dominate the study of politics before and after the Second World War will be examined. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to identify 4 basic approaches to the study of politics and explain the approaches to the study of politics. Since the emergence of political science as a separate discipline, there are 4 major approaches identified to be useful in the study of politics. These are 1. Normative philosophical approach. 2. Descriptive institutional approach. 3. Scientific behavioral approach. And 4. Eclectic post-behavioral approach. Normative philosophical approach. Traditionally, the study of politics was dominated by philosophical reflections on universal political values that were regarded as essential to the just state and the good state. Among the questions that attracted the attention of such great traditional philosophers as Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau were: what is justice? What makes the existence of political power legitimate? What should be the proper role of the state? What reciprocal obligation exists between the state and its citizens? What interpretation and importance should be attached to such political values as justice, natural rights, freedom, and obedience? In short, they were preoccupied with what ought to be, or normative questions. In this present form, the normative philosophical approach has taken the form of a discussion and analysis of the answers that the traditional philosophers provided to some of those questions. But contemporary students of normative philosophical approach have tried not to only provide fresh answers to the questions posed by the traditional philosophers, but also to empirically investigate the extent to which such political values as justice and liberty or freedom are actually being accepted in a particular society. Thus, the application of the philosophical approach in political science usually leads to a focus on the great ideas, values, and doctrine of politics. The normative philosophical approach is the oldest and the least scientific approach to the study of politics, and it has taken over, although not completely displaced, by newer or more contemporary approaches. Descriptive institutional approach. The strongest legacy that philosophy, history, and law have bequeathed to the study of politics is in the field of descriptive and institutional approaches. In broad terms, the institution can be defined as any persistent system of activities or any pattern of group behavior. More concretely, an institution has been conceived as offices and agencies arranged in a hierarchy, each agency having certain functions and powers. You should be informed that this approach emerged to strengthen the weakness of normative philosophical approach. The institutional approach to political inquiry focuses on the formal structures and agencies of government. It originally focused on the evolution and operation of legislatures, executives, and judiciaries. As the approach developed, however, the list is extended to include political parties, constitutions, bureaucracies, interest groups, and other institutions which are more or less permanently engaged in politics. In the descriptive institutional approach, the emphasis is on facts rather than values. In other words, the approach seeks to provide factual and historical answers to such questions as what are the historical sources of parliamentary supremacy over the monarchy? What are the procedures followed when a bill becomes law? By what electoral arrangement are the rulers or representatives chosen? What are the relative merits and demerits of rigid and flexible constitutions? Although descriptive institutional approach is fairly old, political scientists still, in spite of recent developments, concentrate chiefly on examining the major political institutions of the state, such as the executive, the legislature, the civil service, the judiciary, and local government. And from these examinations, valuable insights as to their organization can be drawn, proposals for reform discussed, and general conclusions offered. The approach has been criticized for the neglect of the formal aspects of politics, norms, beliefs, values, attitudes, personality, and the processes. Question. The descriptive institutional approach focuses on A. Organization of data for presentation purposes, the discussion of such universal values as equality, justice, and freedom. B. The reciprocal obligations that exist between the state and the citizens. C. The evolution and operation of governmental institutions and other bodies engaged in politics. Feedback on the question. The correct answer is C. If you choose A and B, then you will be making reference to the normative philosophical approach to the study of politics. The scientific behavioral approach. Beginning in the 1950s, strictly speaking, some political scientists started to concentrate their attention on actual human behavior as opposed to thoughts and feelings. They borrowed the natural scientist methods and accumulated statistics from elections, public opinion, and surveys, and so on. The first was the emphasis on the political behavior of the individual or the group of individuals as a central or crucial unit of political analysis and the basic building block of political science. For example, if you say the court is conservative, we mean that the judge in the Supreme Court is conservative. Behavioralists argue that although the institution is an important aspect of politics, being on its own is not the real stuff of politics. In other words, institutions do not and cannot exist physically apart from the person or groups who inhabit them. It is therefore the behavior of the individual within the institutions rather than the formal structure and characteristics of those institutions which should be the main focus of the political scientists. The second element that behavioralism brought to the study of politics was the emphasis on the use of scientific method in political analysis. The behavioral approach insists on the scientific methods in making accurate statements about the political phenomena or cumulative research on the broad generalizations. The advent of behavioralism in political science was marked by the emphasis on the collection of empirical political data and the use of mathematical and statistical techniques to analyze data collected. Past behavioral studies were especially good in examining the social basis of politics, the attitudes and values of average citizens, which go a long way towards making the system function the way it does. There are several criticisms leveled against the behavioral approach. Critics questioned the basic assumption and argued that political reality consists mainly of unique elements and that whatever regularities that exist are trivial in nature. It was further stressed that political phenomena are not amenable to experimentation. However, despite its perceived shortcomings, the behavioral approach has greatly encouraged the scientific study of political phenomena. The eclectic post-behavioral approach. The decline of behavioralism as an intellectual force in the late 1960s led to the emergence of new perspectives in the study of politics. There was to be a greater emphasis on the informal processes of politics and less on the state political institutions in isolation. Post-behavioralism developed from the criticisms of behavioralism, which was attacked for concentrating on quantifiable but trivial political issues, downgrading the importance of normative values in political research, and neglecting vital areas in political life which are not directly amenable to scientific treatment. Thus, the post-behavioral approach is engaged to promote a political science that would not be as scientific or precise as possible, philosophically normative, politically relevant, but be also socially responsible. It was eclectic in that it supported the incorporation into political science as many perspectives or approaches as can throw light on the complexities of political life. The approach encourages borrowing from other social science disciplines, particularly sociology and psychology. Some of the new perspectives that later developed into approaches in political science include the systems approach, structural functional approach, the group approach, decision-making approach, among others. Each of these approaches has its own weakness or weaknesses and strength or strengths. It has to be mentioned that there is indeed no agreement on one single approach to the study of politics. Question: the normative philosophical approach emphasized A. The development in the study of behaviors of political actors. B. The study of state parastatals. C. The discussion of such universal values as equality, justice, and freedom. D. The scientific study of politics. Feedback on the question. The correct answer is C. If you chose A and D, then you will be referring to the scientific behavioral approach to the study of politics. If you chose B, then you will be referring to the descriptive institutional approach to the study of politics. Study session summary. As it is pointed out in this study session, politics can be studied using 4 different approaches. These are normative philosophical approach, which focuses on philosophical reflections on universal political values that were regarded as essential to the just state and the good state. Descriptive institutional approach that focuses on the formal structures and agencies of government. Behavioral approach that emphasizes the scientific study of political behavior of individuals and group of individuals. And the post-behavioral approach that is eclectic in nature and engaged to promote a political science that would not be as scientific or precise as possible. Philosophical normative, politically relevant, but also socially responsible. End of study session 4. Thanks for listening.